Hi, I'm Ray Mascola. I'm here to talk today about sales, specifically how to grow the sales of your new business. This is part of an ongoing series by the Westford Business Association entitled Lifecycle Management Seminar of 2019. My background is in software sales and sales management. I've spent a long time in software sales and more recently in my own business called Targeting Sales Growth, in which I've worked with smaller businesses and individuals, helping them figure out how to get to their next level strategically and tactically. I'm going to talk today about your business, specifically how do you grow it, specifically how do you understand your client's needs, your client's intentions, and convey to him that you were reacting to them so you develop a relationship and close business. The big concern is in business how to incrementally understand where you can grow your business. Sales is about scaling your business, specifically understanding how you can create meaningful, predictable, repeatable results. So many times in my experience in working with smaller businesses, they're reinventing the wheel every time. I'm thinking of a client I had that every time they were working on new business, they were starting over. They didn't have any business processes that helped them get to the next level quickly. So consequently, what happened was they're spending a lot of time on the cost of getting business, the cost of creating new sales, and also in that process, they were giving away the store in a lot of cases. They were giving away a lot of consulting. So what I help them do is create some processes that you'd want to do with your business so they could scale, find out what was working in terms of their approach with a new prospect, in terms of asking questions, understanding their business, and then specifically getting to the next level with the right people. This is real critical in terms of balancing risk, minimizing your cost of doing business, and finding out where you have a real prospect. One of the things that I'd like to talk about here is the factors you need to grow your business. There's a lot of things involved here. You need to have a marketing strategy that works with your expertise. You need to understand the business of your potential customers. This is always critical. In working with companies, I found in some cases the company, and I have a lot of respect for anybody that has a new business, but the company in many cases have a domain expertise about whatever it is they're selling. They understand the market to a degree, but they don't have the sales skills or the initiative to go out and actually prospect with new customers. I found this in several cases where the situation has to be that they are committed to sales just as their sales force is committed to sales. Everybody in a business has to be on board in terms of selling the product. You need to understand what skills you have in your business, what do you need to understand the needs of the customer, and what are the factors in the market that you're in that you need to know about to convince your prospects that you understand their business. There's a lot of various factors in terms of your product, the management of your organization, social media that we'll talk about, your competition, and what are the economic drivers in your market. Is it a growing market? Are there regulations in that market or industry? What would be the share that you would have in that market? So strategies to support your growth. There's strategies to increase your revenue. There's strategies to find new customers in existing markets. There's finding new customers in new markets, and then increasing, obviously, the ideal is to increase the sales with existing customers, and that's part of developing a relationship. Other ways, which we'll talk about, is there's direct sales, and then there's adding distributors or resellers where you're leveraging people that are already in your market and have a presence, and maybe you have a complementary product to whatever they sell. So it's a way of expanding your sales without having to spend the money expanding your sales force. I've worked in this area. Uh, my recommendation is to have a hybrid approach where you're selling the product directly, so you get to understand more and more about customers, and you're selling the product through distributors, so you're expanding your market reach. Some of the things you have to think about when you're making a decision about sales is having an effective sales strategy, having a marketing strategy, and this requires an ongoing commitment, both in terms of working with customers and understanding what you need in terms of a support organization to make it all happen. I've worked with clients that had a clear understanding of their product, but they needed to understand more about target markets that they were trying to get into, or what would be the impact of their product on a particular industry. I'm thinking of a situation where I worked with an environmental impact company. What they actually did is they went into old buildings, usually on campuses or an old complex of some sort, and did the remediation, the mold remediation work, so that that building could now pass safety standards and be leveraged. One of the things we figured out in terms of a sales strategy, working with some private boarding schools, is if they had more real estate that was safe, that could be modernized, they had a larger marketing strategy when they were able to tell faculty from other places around the country, you come here, we'll also include in your package housing right on campus, because they found once they did the mold remediation and then the modernization, they could expand their strategy and their competitive strategy in terms of working with faculty around the country that had certain expertise, have them come to that boarding school as opposed to someplace else. So what it did is it widened the marketing approach of my environmental impact client beyond just simply mechanically doing some structural work in a building. As you grow, you need to understand what resources you need to grow. There's a combination of your sales force, the funding resources you might need, how do you actually deliver the product, and there's a fine line between having sales be a little bit ahead of support, but you have a support organization which can actually implement the product, so then you have referenceable customers, a real key at the end. Leveraging social media. One of the things that you need to have is a combination of an outbound market push and a market pull. Social media gives you a market pull where you have a presence on various social media sites to increase your brand image, to give you a presence, to give people an awareness of what you do and who you are, and give them some sort of understanding of your product, and have that social media site give them a pull to your website. Market pull, market push are things you're doing actively to go out to the client, to go out to the market. You may do this with a webinar, a workshop of some sort, and plus your direct sales. Another thing I've helped clients do is help them set up as a thought leader. In other words, maybe through LinkedIn, they're creating a conversation and driving that conversation on something to do with an area that they're in. When I've worked with home health care agencies, we help them understand and advocate on specialized services that they were offering that was kind of at the lead of home health agencies, such as creating customized patient plans that were a little unique, that maybe some other agencies didn't have, and it helped promote their image. So you need to understand, in terms of your overall marketing and sales strategy, both a market push and a market pull aspect to it. It can't be just a market pull. You actually have to actively go out there with your sales force, with the sales events that you're having going, with networking, a way to get out there and probe into the marketplace, specifically target markets that you think you can sell your product into. The cost of doing business. One of the things which is critical, which scaling your business will help you do, is to fine-tune your cost. if you have repeatable, proven approaches in your sales strategy that get you to your target markets, you know what you're doing, you know what the steps are, then a couple of things can happen. You're controlling your cost and you're decreasing your sales cycle. I worked with an energy company in New Hampshire where they didn't have this going. And what happened is they were spending a lot of time in closing business, and in the process of not having a strategy, they were actually consulting for free. And we had to change that, where we created a process that helped them identify a strategy that would work with a series of prospects. One of the things I always tell everybody, and as a newer company, you need to understand and have a culture that everybody in your company is in sales, down from the CEO down to the supply clerk. Everybody is in sales. Everybody is in customer success satisfaction, and you need to train people on what that is, so everybody understands what are the types of problems your company is solving, what is the impact of that product once it's installed or the service is installed, and how does it incrementally help the business of your client that you're working with. And everybody really needs to understand this, so they have this mindset of a larger role than whatever their specific function is. My experience has been, when you have that, people are more fully appreciated, more fully engaged, more knowledgeable, and more productive. Plus, they stay around longer. One of the points that I've talked to different companies about, particularly if they're not driven by salespeople, is that we don't think of sales in any sort of predator way. Some people say, well, I don't want to be pushy and I don't want to impose. The more positive mindset is that you work on getting to the degree of a trusted advisor. The way that happens is you convey that you understand the company's business, you understand what their goals, their frustrations, their needs, and their intentions are, and you clearly understand where your product can help that company get to where they want to go. And then part of that is conveying that understanding to your client, and then you start to develop that credibility and comfort level, and what happens is, and this is really a good thing, you become a trusted advisor. What that means is you're taken into the confidence of, here's where we want to go, here's the planning, here's the strategy that we want to go, and here's where we want to take the company. And if you become part of that discussion and can articulate where your product can help your client get to that goal, then you have a long-term relationship and a long-term account and a referenceable account, a trusted advisor. One of the things with an outbound strategy is to be really motivated, to keep your people motivated. You understand what is the benefit that you're going to have, that your company has in the marketplace. What are the things that you're helping solve? One of the things I've talked to companies about is that you continually have an outgoing strategy of talking to a lot of people, honing your message. Part of sales strategy can be networking. One of the things I always recommend is you do some volunteering as part of your community awareness, and be able to have that mindset of staying motivated, because you understand what you're doing and how you're helping people. Communications, I want to spend a little bit of time on this. People buy from people that they're comfortable with. People constantly need to understand that one of the important skills you need is to be able to listen, to understand another human being. A lot of people don't have any training in this. I've worked with companies that were very good at their domain, but needed some counseling to understand how they can better communicate and better convey that they're hearing people's needs. I have a real estate attorney client who's very good in the whole area of legal law, and very good in terms of the services he provided, but he needed to coordinate his services with the needs of the customer. One of the things we always talk about in business is how are you unique? Because his competition is out there. So in this particular case, what we did is on his website, we created a section which said, what I will do if you work for me. And we simply created a litany, a list of everything he would provide from first meeting to the paperwork to close business. Could be commercial business or private business. And gave some actual studies and some examples of some of the unique things he did. One of the things he did is in his large network of communications, he helped immediately at the last minute find a moving company so that the seller could move from where he was to where he needed to be and do that in the time frame of the closing. And it sounds like a little thing, but it was one of the extra steps that he took because it was really time dependent and he needed to have a mover and needed to have it all done within 24 hours. So we actually documented all the different types of things that he did differently because he knew these are the types of things that people cared about because he listens. One of the things we talk about is asking open-ended questions as opposed to closed questions. A person that I kind of look to and have read his books is Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When you're dealing with people, you want to be able to convey that you seek to understand before wanting to be understood. This is really, sounds fundamental, but practicing it on an ongoing basis is really the tool and the key to a blossoming relationship. People like to understand that you hear them. So many of the things I try to do is help clients actually practice asking open-ended questions. If you don't do that, what can happen as you try to grow your business is prematurely thinking you understand what the need of the customer is and you're selling them before you're on the mark. If you don't do that, what can happen is you don't get the business because there's not that connection. Here's just some examples of some closed-ended questions. It doesn't foster a conversation. It fosters one-word short answers. Many people do this. What really works is asking open-ended questions, which can help expound on and help you get to the real intentions of the customer, their frustrations, and their priorities. As you see, closed-ended questions give you facts. They're easy to answer. They're quick. But really, the key here is the control stays with the questioner. What I've worked with people on is asking open-ended questions. It takes longer, but what you're getting is reflective conversations back. You're getting, if done correctly, you're getting their opinions, their feelings, and more important, where they want to take their business. The message here is that the conversation is staying with the respondent, not with the questioner, and you're learning more about their business and you're learning more about them, creating that tighter bond. Another part of open-ended questions, which I've gotten into and I've helped, particularly if the company is driven by maybe an engineering, technically minded founder. I'm thinking of a software company, and the gentleman had all the respect in the world. He created a product out of nothing. It was a software search tool that had event planning in it, but he didn't have a sales background. So one of the simple things we talked about was empathetic listening, where you take the time and the focus and the commitment to understand what the other person is saying, not only the words that is coming out of his or her mouth, but what is the intention here? What are the priorities? What are their challenges? It's not easy to stay focused, but the benefit is tremendous. You're getting all sorts of information, but you're getting thoughts and feelings rather than just facts. One of the things when you're asking empathetic listening style questions, is you're setting aside your specific autobiography. Stephen Covey says, set aside your autobiography. What that means is let the other person talk. Don't reference back to you. You want to help peeling back the onion, so to speak, of open-ended questions that will help you understand more about them, so that when the time comes, you're asking real insightful questions that can lead you to a proposal. The payoff here is that you are conveying that you care. That's the real key. If you can convey that you care, which has been the theme all along, you're creating a better experience for them, you're creating a tighter bond, and you're helping them solve problems maybe that they have now, or if you're really successful, helping them plan for challenges and objectives that they're going to have in the future as they grow their business and you create a larger relationship with them. Again, open-ended questions. You seek to understand before wanting to be understood. And the payoff here is that you're not making a proposal or a sales strategy move until you really have the complete picture. The other advantage here is a lot of people don't do this. So you have a competitive advantage in that you're creating that bond because you've taken the time to listen to the other person, understand their business, and understand where you can help complement where they're going. Sales prospecting, just to talk a little bit about this. I talked earlier about market push. Market pull is getting an awareness out there of your business through social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, different presence you have to get a higher image and a higher brand awareness. You still need traditionally market pull, a sales strategy. And one of the dynamics you need to understand is how many calls does it take for you to close business? Again, if you've got that scaled, repeatable, clear, effective sales strategy, you can shorten the sales cycle. I just put together a metrics here. There's a term called a sales funnel. Picture a funnel of windshield fluid going down in a car. It's wide at the top and it's narrow at the bottom. The message here you need to understand is you need a lot of cold calls in one way or another to get to closed business where you're getting money. You need to understand what it takes in terms of your sales process to get to those customers, and what are the steps in your repeatable sales strategy to close business. Ideally, you want to have that ratio between unqualified prospects and closed business shrink as much as possible, so that the cost of your doing business is less, therefore your profit is more. One of the things I've talked to clients about is what does it take in your business to, I'm thinking of a company I worked with that sold products into hospital labs. The woman who owned the company was very good at creating and understanding her product. We needed to help her understand how the lab used the product, also understand where the lab was going in terms of trends, in terms of other functionality. What happened is she was able to shrink the process of cold calls to more closed business, and it also led her to be able to find other products to anticipate the additional functionality that the hospital lab had. Make sense? This is just a graph of the funnel, the traditional funnel in sales that you have from unqualified to qualified prospects. In other words, these prospects could be customers. You've done some questioning to understand what their needs are and how does that align with what you have to sell. And then you go through that process. Again, if you're looking to grow a business, and you have to have a scaled model where you can repeat your sales strategy with all sorts of customers. As you look in prospecting, we always have to expand our comfort zone, expand our use of social media, expand our creativity. One of the things I've helped customers do is go on locally, the Boston Business Journal, look at there's a section there called Movers and Shakers, where you find success stories. One of the interesting things in terms of funding is it always says at the bottom of the success story who funded that growth of that company. If you then go to the funding site of the provider, you get to see all of the other companies that were funded by this one hedge fund provider or VC or whoever it is. Why that's important, you see what are the types of companies that are growing and what can you do in your business to grow your business? What is the success story there that enabled them to get some funding? I have a couple slides here to just say LinkedIn is a tremendous source as a resource because it's strictly a business social media site. You can do all sorts of searches that help you can get to target markets. I've helped companies understand who their target market is, what industry are they selling into, and then they can start to identify decision makers in target companies and then figure out a message to them. This is simply a list of CEOs in a particular high-tech industry that I had a client that sold into. So LinkedIn has got a lot of information, and it's a good source to find prospects. One of the things I want to say as an additional area, activity doesn't mean success. You want to be able to focus on what are the types of problems you solve, what is your company, why do you have a company, what is the result of people using your product, have that story, that success story on your website, and as part of your message and as part of your value proposition, so that you are real clear on how you differentiate yourself from somebody else in the marketplace. I always recommend in terms of smaller business, you network with Chamber of Commerce's. I've given it some sites here that you can look at. You want to continually, at all levels of the company, be outbound oriented and try to tell your story to as many people as possible. Here's some critical elements that you need to think about when you're putting together your story. You need to have a business plan. What do you do? What's your mission? Where do you want to take your company? And then more than just the vision and the strategy is what's your action plan to make that happen. I've worked with companies that had a product, but thinking of one in the technical area, again, developed by engineers. But the good news, bad news about this particular company is there was a broad applicability to the product. So we needed to help them understand how do you focus in a particular area where that particular industry could use the type of product you had. In this particular case, it was Chamber of Commerce's and trade associations that had a diverse type of members that needed to be able to have a tool to have online communication, immediate communication with all sorts of different types of members, needed a tool to have group conversations, event planning, and invitations. And my particular client had that. And the message here is if you're a smaller growing business, you have to have a focus on a certain market, do well there, be able to document those referenceable customers, deliver an installed product successfully, and then grow your business. People talk about what you need in terms of growing your business. What do I need to have? Well, the first thing you need to have is referenceable customers. And the way you get there is to have a sales strategy that helps you understand who you are, what you do, and the outcome of what you do. So I talk here about the business plan, the financial management, understanding what you need in terms of financing to support the growing organization to be able to deliver your product. One of the things I've talked to people about is you need a customer support organization to support the promises of sales. You need to install the product, but you need to sell the product, but you need to have people that will install the product and meet the promises of your management and your sales. That's critical to be able to have a referenceable customer base. Marketing needs to be done carefully. You want to have your sales strategy in line with your marketing strategy. In other words, everybody is clear about who you are and what you do and how your message is presented to the marketplace. I keep wanting to mention that as a team, everybody understands what the overall reason you're in existence for. What are the types of customers you're looking to address, and what does it mean to be successful? That means you have an installed product that in some way or another help the business of your client. In summary, a couple of points to mention is we're in the communication business. People buy from people that they're comfortable with. And the way they are comfortable with you is if they understand that you are listening to who they are, they feel that you understand their business, and then they'll be receptive to what you have to say. If you've taken the time to understand what they have to say and been skilled in terms of open-ended questions, you're going to be able to be more on the mark in terms of the proposal you give, because you got a larger, bigger picture. You need to understand what the result of your product is on your company's business. Again, what is the impact that you've had because they bought your stuff? This ties back to your competitive edge. Where is your edge? What is it? Your customer success, your delivery, the experience you give. I worked in the home health agency, which is a very competitive business, and that's a business where people are looking for service, and they're looking for a high comfort level of the client, usually an elderly person. Telling a story where I work with a client that part of it is the safety and the services that you provide in the home health agency, which maybe some people don't. This particular client that I work with got a lot of kudos because the elderly woman's Siamese cat got out of the apartment, and they had an all hands on deck to find this Siamese cat, get it back to this elderly woman, in addition to the services they were providing. And it just, because everybody knew that this was a large priority for this woman, was her companion little pet. It sounds like a little thing, but what it demonstrated is the extra length that they went to in terms of understanding what their clients' needs were and meeting them. Finally, you need to have some sort of tool to manage your customer base. One of the things I always talk about, part of the mantra that I try to work with customers, is whatever you say you're going to do, you do. And you do it in a timely fashion, and then you confirm back that what you did, in fact, met the need of your client, so you have a closed loop there. I just want to say that as you look through this, one of the things I need to reinforce is, at growing a business, not only do you need to understand who you need to call on, because they'd be receptive, you need to think of the decision makers. The decision makers are the people in the organization or that you're talking to that will make a decision related to your product. Whether it's somebody in the home health business, in the education business, it might be a parent where you're helping their child prepare for college. It could be any sort of connection, but it's the person that makes a decision related to what you have to offer. So that's critical, because in so many cases we're selling to somebody that can't make a decision related to your product. There's a lot of excess. One of the things the final things I'd like to leave you with is there's two words that can help you drive towards your success: focus and your passion. Good luck to you.